All right, guys, what we are going to do today is we're going to solve quadratic equations with square roots. Because we just learned how to simplify the square roots, now we're going to solve the equation with it. So go ahead and get your paper, your notebook, whatever you need out. We are going to start with an easy one. So we are going to start with 2x squared plus 1 equals 17. So again, we're not going to factor. We're going to solve this by square roots. So the first thing you want to do is you want to isolate the x squared, meaning everybody needs to go but the x squared. So what we do first is we want to get rid of this 1. So we are going to subtract a 1 from both sides. So you're going to get 2x squared equals 16. Now, is the x squared by itself now? Nope. So let's get rid of that 2. Sorry, I'm trying to get this. It's not doing what it's supposed to do. So let's look. Okay, there it goes. So let's get rid of this 2 now. So I'm going to divide by 2. And I'm going to have x squared equals 8. Okay? Now is the x squared by itself? Yes. Now, you know how addition and subtraction are opposites of each other, and multiplication and division are opposites of each other? The square root and the squared are opposites of each other. So if you square root both sides, which is what we're going to do, this little 2 and the square root cancel out and you get x. Now, when you square root something, you get a positive and a negative number. Okay, and we have the square root of 8. Now here's the thing, you got to think back to what we just learned. You have to simplify that radical. So let's do the tree. You get a 4 and a 2 and a 2 and a 2. Here's my partners, here's my lonely. So really your answer is plus or minus 2 radical 2. Now, I'm pretty sure we talked some other time about why you get a positive and negative number, but we just have to make sure if we are square rooting something that we put the plus and minus in front. All right, let's try another easier one, and then we'll go for something different. Let's do x squared over 25 minus 1 equals 11. Okay, so again, isolate the x squared. So I'm going to add the 1 first. So I'll have x squared over 25 is equal to 12. Now, how do you get rid of something that's being divided by the x squared? What's the opposite of division? Good, multiplying. So we'll have x squared, and then we'll use our calculator. 12 times 25, which is 300. All right, how do we get rid of that little baby 2? What's the opposite of him? Square root. Now, we get a plus and a minus. And we have the square root of 300. Do you think we're allowed to live it like that? Heck no. All right, let's do it. 30 times 10. 30 is that 6 and 5? Yeah. And 6 is 3 and 2. And 10 is 5 and 2. All right, partners. Ooh. A little donut partner over here. There's my lonely 3. What happens if you have 2 partners? What do you do with that 5 and 2? Yes, you multiply. Good. So 5 times 2 is 10, and then the lonely is a poor little lonely 3. There's your answer, plus or minus 10 radical 3. Okay, now let's do a smidge bit harder. So we have 3x plus 2 squared equals 21. So here's our guy now. Remember, we have to isolate the x squared. Now this time, the x squared has some friends, okay? It's x minus 2 squared. So we have to isolate that, okay? They go together, okay? You can't break them apart. They're together. They're in the parentheses. So let's get rid of the 3 first. 3 is being multiplied by this, so we know the opposite of that is division. So we'll have x minus 2 squared. What's 21 divided by 3? 7. All right, now he's isolated. So now we are allowed to square root. So I'm going to square root, square root. So the square root and the squared do go away, and you just have x minus 2 over here. Don't forget, anytime you square root, you have the plus and minus. Now, can 7 be broken down? No. Okay, it is prime, so leave it alone. But over here on the left, x is not by itself, so you need to get rid of it. So we're going to add 2 to both sides. Now, when you add 2, that number, that whole number, goes in front of the plus and minus. So you have 2 plus or minus square root of 7. That is your answer. So when you have that whole number, he goes in front of the plus and minus. All right, I know it's been 5 minutes, but let's do one more. So 2a minus 16 squared minus 45 equals 53. Again, we have to isolate this squared. Okay, so again, you do your addition and subtraction first. So I'm going to add 45 to both sides. So 53 plus 45 is 98. Okay, now I'll divide by 2 to get rid of that 2. Okay, let me use my calculator. 98 divided by 2 is 49. All right, now what's the opposite of this little 2? Yes, square root. So these go away and you just have a minus 16 plus or minus, what is the square root of 49? Ooh, it's a perfect square. What is the square root of 49? 7. Okay, but still have that plus and minus. Do not forget him. Okay, now I'm going to add 16 to both sides. Now, what is different? Let's look over here. Over here we had a square root of 7. Okay, so that we couldn't put the 2 and the square root of 7 together because they're not alike. But over here we have a whole number 7 and a whole number 16. But the thing is you've got a positive 7 and a negative 7. So you got to do both. So what is positive 7 plus 16? 23. Okay, what's a negative 7 plus 16? 9. Okay, so you're going to have two answers. So remember, over here, if you have the radical, you just leave it alone. Leave it alone with that radical. But if you have two whole numbers, you got to give me the answer. So again, you have a positive 7 and a negative 7. All right, guys, try some of your problems.